Good morning, world. Good morning, America. How are you? Actually, don't tell me. I don't want to know at the moment. So what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dad's Den, live in the den. I don't know, man. I have sort of a chill stream today because, well, obviously there was no like big pop culture news. Nothing happened that freaked everybody on Earth out. So, but honestly, I wouldn't talk about it anyways. At this point, I just don't. That kind of pop culture, I don't care about. Dude, check this out. I just found this on the floor under my desk. Why it's under there, I don't know. I don't know if you can see, you got sort of the video screens from Cisco, and it was basically like a video camera. And then, check it out, man. The USB thing pops out from the side here. You know, I should do that actually on camera. You ready for it? Here comes. Here it comes. It's going to be exciting. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, why is this under my desk now? I don't think I've seen it under there. I remember us getting this, so it's flip video. I remember us getting this thing like years ago, part of a golf tournament that I used to be involved with, I think. Anyways, now I'm actually kind of tempted to like record a video with this thing and see what it does. This is the quality of streaming you're going to be getting today. Now, obviously today, and starting at the same time as this stream that I do every Sunday, is the memorial for Charlie Kirk. So there's probably a lot of folks. Oh, see what's on it. Oh, okay. All right. My wife was checking it out, which would also explain why it ended up on the floor. So obviously there's a big memorial today, so I don't even know if I'll have anybody in the chat. And that's fine. If I don't, maybe people can watch this later. And if I do have folks in the chat, that'd be groovy too. But since I don't have massive amounts to talk about today, other than just insulting my wife, which is, you know, kind of classic. Oh, look at this. So I thought maybe I will put together one of these little Japanese penny block figures. They're like Legos, but super, super tiny. So I cut the thing open, and there's another plastic bag. I should be able to open it though. There we go. All right. So this is like a little, I assume it's a raccoon and not one of the little raccoon dogs. Make sure everything's out of this dude. Because seriously, these are like, here, this is one of the really big pieces. I did one of these on stream before. So I figured I might play around with this while I'm talking, while I'm chatting about nonsense. Yeah, okay, that's the base. Yeah, so here's the instructions. I almost said rules. You can get these things. You can pick them up at Daiso, and they're probably out there. I wouldn't be surprised. Oops, on like Amazon or something too. And the nice thing about them is they're cheap, frankly. I don't know, like a couple, $3. Little package like this. It actually does reseal. So if you take there's like a, you know, ziplock kind of deal. So you can take it apart, put it back in there. And there usually are extra pieces in these. So you could save those. You could probably build other things with them. But if you wanted, you know, if you need some like stocking stuffers for kids or even, you know, for adults, or if you needed like little, like party favor for a kid's birthday, worth checking out. If you got a Daiso in your area, it's basically Japanese dollar store, 100 yen stores, they would put it, with prices above $1, just like dollar stores have nowadays in the US. But they got a lot of good stuff there, and they got a lot of really great like plushy kind of stuffed animals. So again, if you need just like a gift for some kid's birthday that your kid's been invited to, you know, that's not gonna kill you money wise, but the thing's actually gonna be somewhat quality. Check out Daiso if you could find it. You can order online, but I think they only allow ordering if it's from a city that they're in already in the US. And you had to have a minimum order, and I don't remember what it is now, but it was a little high, especially for a dollar store. I guess it's just how the economic fundamentals worked. But anyhow, there's my commercial for Daiso. I wish I was getting paid for that. That'd be pretty cool. So this morning when I got up, my wife was watching a compilation of Halloween commercials from like the 60s through probably the 90s. And while we were watching it, I want to say this, I don't know, this popped into my head. Does anybody else remember this movie? Because she didn't. Space Invaders. It's like these incompetent Martians crash land on Earth on Halloween. And the dude in front, who basically sounds like Jack Nicholson, is trying to fix the spaceship so they can get the heck out of there. But the captain wants to more or less, conquer Earth on his own. And I remember going and seeing this with a buddy of mine, and it was actually pretty funny. It was one of those... Oh, it's buffering a little, huh? Huh. Yeah, it might be something else. I don't think it's anything over here that's messing it up. But it was one of those movies where you're going, this is either going to be just unbelievably lame, but maybe. And it was actually kind of fun. Yeah, I was just thinking about that today, and I thought it might be a good one to review one of these days. Just especially, maybe, I don't know, maybe next October or something for Halloween. Yeah, see, this is the big news I have today. It's fine, right? It's an important day for a lot of people to mourn. And I had the thing scheduled, so I'm doing it. Maybe it's a way for some other people to chill out. But I don't have Man of War in the chat, but he was in last week, and he might see this at a later date. We were talking about some Kino Lorber films that were out, and he mentioned those are the ones that are not on sale at Barnes & Noble. Well, I caught somebody on Twitter saying, hey, Kino Lorber, 50% off at Barnes & Noble. So if Man of War happens to see this, hey, there's Lone Dragon. That's for that movie. We're actually in the movie. We were, weren't they? God, it's so long ago. I don't remember, dude. Yeah. I just remember thinking it was actually a little funny. It wasn't the greatest film ever made. But anyhow, so Kino Lorber films, and we're going to talk about a couple of them that are coming attractions later. Apparently right now, if you go to your local Barnes & Noble, you might find them 50% off. So that's kind of groovy. There were a bunch of action figures out in the last week, and I talked about them probably last stream or the one before that. I might have even mentioned a couple. The only two that I picked up, I did grab the Batgirl because I thought it looked pretty rad. And with this kind of scale, I'm pretty much just, if it's a character that I really kind of dig, especially if it's an obscure one that I dig, and obviously she's not obscure, but I'm going to grab it. But I'm not doing any big collection. I'm not trying to put a team together or anything like that. So I grabbed that, and I did not plan on doing this initially, but McFarlane put out the Batman Returns figures. And I did grab the Catwoman figure. Now, this is not my favorite of the Batman movies, and it's entirely because of Penguin. If I could extract Penguin from the film, it would probably be one of my favorite Batman movies. But the figure, I saw some close-ups of like the face sculpt, and it's like, holy crap, it was really, really good. Like, they really nailed it down. I wonder if they're using, any aids, like AI type stuff to build frames to do some of that, or if it's just pure if it's pure sculpture work, whoever they had doing it did a really amazing job. So I did pick those up. Now these are pre-orders, so obviously I don't know when I'm going to see those come through. Oh Lord, I'm looking at these instructions. My goodness sakes. Wow. Yeah, I'm now completely regretting the idea of putting this thing together. Whew. Holy moly. You know, usually the steps are a little more split up, and this one is almost like, here, put all the pieces together and you'll have your raccoon. Mamma mia. All right. So while I'm chatting, I'm going to be looking at this. Is that a 3? Okay. So I'll put these things, I'll assemble things while I'm chatting. So anyways, I did pick up those two. Lone Dragon says, they look nice, but I'm not trying to just wait. Yeah, that was the thing. And I'm kind of the same way, but I'm going to grab this one because it did look good. I'm not grabbing any of the others. Because, again, 35. Now, I don't know. These might be, maybe they're a little more upscale. I don't know. The extra expense could be because of the licensing was maybe more expensive. I have no idea. I mean, they got a DC license, but I don't know. When you're doing stuff with actors' faces, there could be additional licensing fees. In fact, there's something we're going to look at later that I thought that might have been an issue with, but okay. Sorry, looking for a piece there. There we go. But anyway, so I did pick up those two. That was it, though, and there are quite a few releases. There was a lot of releases going on. And there are some more coming up, which we're going to look at in just a minute. The other thing I picked up, let me do that because I'm going to need to use my hands for this. And rather than putting together a toy, I'll do that. So I got my little facsimile of Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica. You notice, by the way, I pointed this out once before, but Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica. It was Archie's pal, Jughead. And then from DC, you got Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. I think they were kind of going for that. So this showed up in the mail. I thought it was kind of cool. Just the plastic bag. It's like, oh, this is how you used to do stuff. Everything's like overdone these days. And I'm like, that's like how we used to get stuff in the mail when I was a kid. I kind of liked it in a way. If you're interested in like pre-ordering the facsimiles of some of the Archie stuff, and I'm trying to open it now, and that would have probably been easier with scissors. But if you're interested in that, it's free shipping. It's the cover price. So there's really no downside to just pre-ordering it at the Archie Comics shop. You know, and of course, you can always wait and grab it at your local comic shop if they carry it. One of mine does. When I say one of mine, I kind of only have one now because there were some issues. But I've ordered a couple of them. They come in good shape. And I think, Lone Dragon says, I wanted that recent Hawk Girl figure, but passed because of the price. Which is, see, now that I don't know. And I would think licensing the image of Michelle Pfeiffer would be probably more expensive than the actress who played Hawk Girl, just because Michelle Pfeiffer's been around, longer, bigger star and all that kind of stuff, but it might not. And I don't know. It could just be the way they're, putting these things together. Oh yeah. So this is, okay. So this particular Archie comic, apparently involves Betty, like selling her soul to the devil to get Archie, which honestly, I mean, Betty and Veronica are so far out of Archie's league. It's ridiculous. You never know. I'm trying to think they probably weren't showing who the artists were at the time. It could have been DiCarlo. It could be Harry Lucy. In fact, just looking at the motion and the movement of the characters, I have a feeling it is Harry Lucy. who was friggin' amazing. I know, dude, old Archie comics are, I mean, some of them are just, again, they're just pinup girls and dad jokes, but some of them are like, whoa, what are they doing here? That's crazy. They like doing this in a lot of these old books. The Paris fashions, and if you could read it closely enough, you'll see that these are designs that people would submit. So the one designed by Simoda Lang, Paris, France. This outfit designed by Madeline Russo, Birmingham, Alabama. Sweater by Joyce Kingsley, Allentown, Pennsylvania. And they had the address here. Veronica's one never. Yeah. Okay, looks like I got disconnected there for a minute. Reconnection says it's successful. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's probably local internet. What can I say? Anyhow, I was talking about monster cereal toys. So Boo Berry I actually picked up a few years ago at Zia Records. They had one available. And I just noticed, I didn't realize this before, but there's actually like a texture on the words and on Boo Berry there. We can open it up. You can sort of see. There we go. Get some of the glare out of there. Cute, nice. So I picked up that one. Obviously, I wanted the other two big time monsters. And finally, almost got them on an auction on the Goodwill. Good Lord. The Goodwill site. And the bidding went a little higher than I wanted to pay. So I wandered over to eBay and found a couple that were exactly at the price that I wanted to pay. So, delivered this week, we got Count Chocula. There we go. And the back. And the other side. And why not the top and the bottom? And we use these basically just for Halloween decorations, which we have an extremely decorated house. There we go. So we don't get all the glare. So there's Chocula. There's a head change out. There's a little cereal box that goes with them. Fun, fun, fun. I love this kind of stuff. You know what? I don't know. Is it sort of vapid? I guess it is. It ain't fancy. I love good character designs for old advertising. You know, what's his name? Toucan Sam, Captain Crunch, all that stuff. The Icy Bear, one of my favorites. There's old Frankenberry, which I've also now become semi-addicted to the cereal because we got a box of it, which I don't think I'd ever tasted it before. So now I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. Go for a little more. So it's sort of become a dessert at night thing. Grab a bowl of Frankenberry. Yeah, so we just got those, though. I haven't taken them out of the boxes, and I'm not sure if we will, because the boxes are kind of cool in and of themselves. So I might just leave that as it is. But that's a 4-piece and 2 3s. Okay. But at any rate, hey, here's a fun fact. You know, Slurpees are just licensed ices. Apparently 7-Eleven went to the icy people and we're like, hey, we'd like to license that for our stores. And Icy said, that's cool, but you are not going to use the Icy name, and you're not going to use our mascot. We're reserving that for ourselves. So you got to come up with something different. And so 7-Eleven came up with the term Slurpee. And strangely enough, Slurpee is probably more famous now than Icy, which means Icy would have probably been better served if they had just let them use their name. Ho, ho, ho. Is that for the Green Giant? Yeah, so anyways, but I always as a kid thought that Icies were like sort of like rip-off Slurpees. Like it was somebody's, unlicensed knockoff of a Slurpee. And come to find out later, no, Icies were first, and Slurpee showed up later. That being said, Slurpee cups are awesome. And in fact, let's see if I can grab all three of these. Whoa, hello. I got a few of the superhero Slurpee cups. Just a couple of them. Hulk versus Abomination. What do we got in this dude? We got Iron Man. Who's he fighting there? I'll be honest, I'm not sure who that dude he's fighting is. Maybe that was a one-off. And then we got Daredevil swinging in from the side too. Yeah, it's too small. Yeah, that's how big a Slurpee was supposed to be. You know, this one's kind of my favorite because it's the Champions, which is one of those little weird books that I like to collect. You know, we got what? Iceman, Black Widow. No, that's not Darkseid. Come on, woman. Oh, I thought that was my wife who said that. Sorry, dude. I thought she said that. Yeah, no, not Darkseid. Yeah, he's you know, he's a little Darkseid-y. He's Darkseid-esque. No, I don't think Darkseid ever wore a muscle shirt and jeans, but maybe on the weekends he does. I have one more of these cups I have on my desk at work, because I did like a little eBay search for them, and they did a lot with like sports figures on them, you know, athletes. And there was one there with O.J. Simpson on it. So I bought it. Oh, yeah. Just because it's like, dude, remember when O.J. was just a guy who played football and he did some commercials and he was in the Naked Gun movie and some other movies too. And it was so weird when all that stuff went down. It's just so surreal that even happened. And it's kind of the same thing with Bill Cosby, where you grew up and Cosby was just, I mean, he was this good dude. He had some sitcoms and the Fat Albert and the Gang, and he was on some of the early, I think Sesame Streets, and I think he also maybe did early electric companies as well, because like in college he was a child education major, so he did a bunch of stuff like that, and it was just so like that was Bill Cosby, and then all this stuff goes down, and it's hard when you're from this generation that I'm in, at least, to completely like abandon, you know, him. And OJ's a little easier to abandon OJ, but still, it's just like you're just so used to those people, like, I don't know, just being sort of normal in your mind. It's hard to sort of reconcile it, which I suppose is the same for a lot of people who are like in their own families, when they find out that somebody, like, you know, they love has done something, you know, terrible, that there's still probably that part of them that's going, but that's, you know, that's my brother. There's Ramey Butler, as I'm getting all serious about stuff. But, you know, it's like, that's my brother. I can't, how do I deal with the fact that he's maybe not the good guy that I thought he was? It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough. If it's tough for dealing with a celebrity who has sort of gone to the dark side, you know, who's a person that, like, you don't really know them. Oh, did I do the wrong? God dang it, I did. All right, here's the worst thing about if you're doing these petty blocks. You put them together, and because they're so small, they don't necessarily like to come apart that easily. That one wasn't too bad. You know, but you got to sort of tighten it up. And then you realize you put the thing in the wrong place, and you're like, oh, crap. I got to untighten this thing up. My brother is a butthole. Yeah, sometimes they are, right? I'll be honest. I got pretty lucky. You know, I mean, as much as me and my sister used to fight when we were kids about stuff, she is a genuinely good person. And I got no problems there with my sister. It's a blessing. But I know some people. I had a really good friend growing up whose brother was a big problem and caused him a lot of issues. Of course, he also introduced him, and of course, in a way, me, to Dungeons and Dragons, which I don't know, maybe I should be angry about for all the money I spent on D&D crap over the years. So that's some of these things, the sort of way they go together, you almost have to lay it down on a piece of paper or whatever you're working on and lay the things out flat, because then you have to figure out how they're all these little pieces are going to ultimately stick together. Did I only grab? Oh, I was supposed to grab 4 of those. Holy Moses. Dude, I picked the perfect one of these to try to put together on a stream, because it is way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Oh, he has ADHD with anger issues. Oh, yeah. Oh, my wife had to approve that comment, I guess, because of the word. I mean, there's some phrases I wouldn't want on my stream, but I'm fine with the term butthole. For one thing, it is a funny word, even if the person who's being a butthole, if their behavior is not funny, calling them a butthole is kind of funny and probably more than a little therapeutic. But yeah, man, I hear you. Like, it's a tough thing to deal with, especially with family, because there are needs to, often be around those folks, holidays and things like that. And, sometimes even though they might have issues like that arise, they might also, at times be somebody that you're going to genuinely need in your life. What is that? Oh, that's a 3-1. Okay. For those who have come in late, I am putting together a little, essentially kind of like a Lego deal. They're called petty blocks, though, so they're really, really tiny. Get in there. Okay, perfect. So that's why Mr. Blind Eye the Pirate is trying to, has to every so often take his glasses off to look at this little instruction sheet. So let's see. Now that would go, okay. So that's going to go over those 2 pieces there. So let's line those dudes up. It's silly the amount of precision some of this stuff takes. Did I get it? I didn't quite get it. Dang it! Okay, I got it on that one. But yeah, so I get it. It's like it's a rough thing. It's a really rough thing to have to deal with folks like that. And again, I've been pretty lucky not to have to deal with that. But we've had some people in our lives that could have been a little bit easier to deal with, could have been a little bit more pleasant to deal with. That is for sure. Of course, if you catch me, like when back in the day when the Iowa Hawkeyes were losing, I wasn't always the most pleasant person to stay around. My wife says that when I'd scream at the TV, that the players couldn't actually hear me, but I'm pretty sure, in fact, they could. And I was willing to make a fool of myself to prove it. All right. Remy says, yeah, PTSD affects the entire family. Dad is finally, oh, well, that's good. Vietnam vet. Yeah, I can imagine. You know, honestly, I grew up with a father who had a really good temper, and it was sort of handed down because I know his father had issues like that. Now, with them, it was not PTSD. It was just an aspect of the family. One of my, let's see, golly, who would it be? My great-grandmother's family. Large Germans, last name pronounced Kreisbender, but if you looked at it, it's spelled Kreuzbender. And because I did a lot of the genealogy stuff, they had come over to the U.S. round about the, I want to say 1830s. No, I'm getting that wrong. They came around to the 1870s, post-Civil War. And it's like one of the latest additions from my family tree to the United States. And they were apparently just, it could be a remarkably angry group of people, put it that way. To the extent that when they had family reunions, they would end up usually in really large fist fights. And so it was a side of the family that my great-grandmother pretty much was like, nah, I don't want the kids around this. That's not going to happen. They're not going to be around this. So they didn't see that side of the family very often. So there weren't too many other stories I ever heard about them. But yeah, it's like you do have that sometimes in your family. Thankfully, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up being that way. Because on the other side of my family, on my mom's side, I've often told folks that I am sort of related to Yosemite Sam. Because I have I think he'd be a great-great-grandfather who wasn't terribly different, honestly, from Yosemite Sam in terms of his anger issues. Now, he was raised in Missouri post-Civil War. He was a little kid during the Civil War. Now, northern Missouri was rough territory. Union versus Confederacy, guerrilla warfare. And some of his brothers-in-law were guerrillas for the Confederate forces. And they were violent men. And so he was around them and he picked it up. So the Show Me State, and boy, they showed their violence, that's for sure. There's a couple stories that have been handed down about this guy. One of them is there was one time where he and his wife, and he had one son, and his son was my great-great-grandfather, so he was a great-great-great-grandfather. I am descended from gorillas. What are you talking about? So they had this local school teacher staying at their house, which was pretty common back in those days. And this probably would have been in the 1880s, maybe into the 1890s. You know, you had sort of the one-room schoolhouse, and the expectation was for teachers they had to be single, which is why, like, you see some old Little Rascals where the teacher's getting married and they're all sad because she's going to have to leave. And by the time of the Little Rascals, it was a choice, but back earlier, it wasn't a choice. If she got married, she was out, because I think the idea was like, we can't have a teacher who is, around kids. Kind of weird, but there it was. So they had to be single. They had to not be seeing anybody, yada, 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 if they were going to be a teacher. So she was staying at their house. So one night, great-great-great-grandpa, we'll just call him Old Frank. I'll leave the last name out. Old Frank was drunk, and he forced the teacher and his wife to dance around the room while he shot bullets into the floor from his gun. And I'm like, we've seen that kind of thing in like movies, or especially cartoons. And it's somewhat sobering when you find out that you had an ancestor who actually did that to people. It doesn't exactly make you proud of your heritage when you hear something like that. That is for sure. Okay, that goes to that. So that would be, okay. So that was one story about Old Frank. The other one was that he and a brother-in-law got into a fight over a bucket of soap. Well, obviously, there are some things in life worth fighting for, and clearly a bucket of soap is one of them. So Old Frank, because he was apparently very, very taken with this bucket of soap, Old Frank decided to... No, wait a minute. Did I screw something up here? Hold on here. That's that way. Old Frank decided to pull his gun on his brother. And... yeah, okay, that one was right. The other one was wrong. And chase him around the barn, threatening to kill him, again, over a bucket of soap. So his brother-in-law ran around the barn and got far enough ahead of him that he was able to grab a 2x4, and he hit around the corner, and his Old Frank rounded the corner right in the forehead. And it laid Old Frank out. And so brother-in-law went home, and I don't know if he got to enjoy his soap or not, but yeah, so like you're going, what in the name of God is going on with these people? Now, the moral of this story is that as bad as Old Frank was, and obviously he was pretty bad, his son, who everybody called Little Frank, my great-great-grandfather, was well known as one of the nicest human beings who ever lived. And his son, my grandfather, also one of the nicest people who has ever lived. I think about my grandfather a lot. A lot. An amazing man, a very good man. So the nice thing is that even though Old Frank was a hellraiser, to put it mildly, it didn't have to, thankfully, it didn't have to continue beyond Old Frank. And so families can reform. And honestly, that's why some of these stories, when I first heard them, from a somewhat distant cousin of mine who dug a lot of this stuff up, it was really amazing, because you're like going, wait, on that side of the family? Now, I'd heard the other side of the family, and I knew there were anger issues over there, with them. But it was a real surprise to find out some of those issues happening on the other side of the family, because, man, it was just not like them at all. My grandfather, his children, my mother and my aunt and my uncles, they don't have anger issues. They just don't. Very, very calm, very pleasant people. by and large. Not to say they've never gotten angry in their lives or anything like that, but thankfully the fruit, so to speak, can fall pretty far from the tree on things like that. But Ramey, I'm glad. Sounds like your dad's getting some therapy for that stuff. Because it's a tough thing, obviously. Like I'm sure there's some, maybe some anger and some resentment from childhood of having to go through that. And again, my father had a pretty good temper. And so we had to do that a little bit with him too. It never got to a really bad place, but it made for from days that were not that much fun. But if it's because of like PTSD from the Vietnam War, it's like there's also a part of you going, well, I mean, like, how to, you kind of understand how that can happen. It's not just like dad decided he's going to be, mean or angry all the time. It's like that's something that he had to endure. So I'm sure that makes it difficult in a lot of ways, but I'm glad he's getting some help. You're not kin to the hints. No, I'm not. I mean, well, as far as I know, I'm not. Oh, Vin, look, man, the thing about war, it keeps rolling. It keeps rolling. I mean, look, there are issues we're dealing with today that obviously go back to the Middle Ages. There are issues we're dealing with today that you could probably trace back to the Battle of Marathon. It's like it sets off waves of violence and, social change with people that goes to the current day. I mean, Germany, for example, you had the 30 Years' War fought in Germany, and it was fought really between the French and the Swedish and et cetera, but it was fought in Germany. It became a battlefield. And I mean, people were going through starvation and stuff like that. And it just shell-shocked Germany. And when it was all over, the Germans were like cut off from major ports. So when there was finally unification in Germany, like in the 1870s, a long time later, that's one of the reasons Germany came out very aggressive. They were kind of like an abused child of Europe who, once they were unified, were also probably the most powerful country in Europe. And they went out and aggressively were looking for colonies and everything. It's like, we're not going to be treated like this again. We can't ever be vulnerable again, which kind of rolls into two different world wars. And, the 30 Years' War, I mean, we're talking like the 1600s. I mean, if you ever played Warhammer Fantasy Battle, that's when it's set during like the 30 Years' War. I was a refugee. Yeah, like I said, the latest group of people in my family that came over were from were the Christbenders, and it was like in the late 1860s, early 1870s. They came over to New York. They moved around a lot, and they were the dad was a cooper. He was a barrel maker. I know at one point he was working for who is it in St. Louis? Is it Budweiser that's in St. Louis? I can't remember now which brewery it was, but he was working there for a while. But yeah, they came over at that point. Most of my family, strangely enough, was actually in the United States relatively early, kind of the Revolutionary War era and stuff. Does that go there? And we're getting, well, I wouldn't say I'm off topic because I don't hardly have a topic today. But I guess I should probably show a few coming attractions. I know one thing. I am almost certainly not finishing this little knockoff Lego project because holy moly, is it tough. Okay, now I need it. There it is. Dude, I'm telling you what, these little tiny, the pieces in Legos that they're about the same size as the little Lego person heads, but a little smaller. They're like little cylinders, like one hole cylinders. I don't know. There's maybe an official Lego term for these things. I don't know what they are, but yeah, the ones of those like this with petty blocks are unbelievably small. And if I was a child, I would probably have no real problem putting them together. But I'm not a child, and I got stubby fingers. So, I mean, because you're not an idiot, that's for sure. It is Budweiser. Okay, yeah, you're not an idiot. Yeah, God's real. It's something I kind of grew up with low-key with my family, but not low-key, but on a low-key level. We didn't go to church a lot. I had a little bit of it. I never thought about it much, but in recent years, it sort of hit me kind of like a revelation of he's real. And it's helped me with a few things in my life. I was never like a hellraiser or anything like that needed a lot of straightening out, but I had my issues, and discovering a lot of that stuff has helped. But again, if you've gone through something as horrific as the Vietnam War, especially if you're actually on the ground and stuff like that, I can understand why it becomes difficult, because a lot of people want God to be essentially a genie who makes wishes come true and makes sure nothing bad ever happens to anybody. And it's sort of, to a lot of people, what's the point? If that's not what he actually is, then what is the point? And it is more complicated than that, which you learn if you're becoming a Christian. You learn these things. But for a lot of folks, yeah, it's sort of like, it'd be kind of like living in Metropolis and wondering why Superman wasn't there to save you. And if he's not there to save me, what's the point of having a Superman at all? And again, I do get that. I do get where people are coming from. I think for a lot of people, they think of Christianity as, because it was so commonplace in the United States at one point, they don't think of it as being particularly complex. It's a simple concept. It's a simple religion. And it's like, no, it is and it isn't at the same time. It's something that you do need to learn about and understand. I think, Ramey, are you the one who was mentioning in that one video about listening to or reading Chesterton's Orthodoxy? There's a lot more to be understood about Christianity, and that was something I needed to do because I didn't have a particularly good understanding of it. And I've listened to a few people and things like that. My dad is practicing. Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad he's getting help, man. I really am. I really am. All right, let's talk about a few coming releases. Let's talk about something fun, if we can, for a little bit, because we need to deal with our problems in life, but then we need to also take a break and enjoy some goofy stuff once in a while. And Chesterton is pretty darn awesome, Ramey. I agree. So they've announced the third wave McFarlane Toys has of their Super Friends figures. And it does include the Wonder Twins. Looks like Jaina is going to come with Gleek. And it looks like Zan comes with a wrench, which I guess is useful if you're just beating the crap out of people. I was honestly thinking, like, shouldn't he have come with a bucket? Because he was always, like, turning into water. And then he'd be a bucket and Jaina would turn into, like, an eagle and carry him. So I would have probably paired him up with a bucket. Now I need to scoot my chair over because now, there we go. That's a little better. Now, I got to be honest with you. I am 100% in on the Wonder Twins. Now, these are supposed to be coming out October 2nd, although one tweet said October 3rd, but when you click through, it said October 2nd. So I'm going to start looking for his power stick. I'm going to start looking for these things on October 2nd because I do want to get those two. Again, I like the weirder, more obscure crap. And it looks like they do have, Yeah, you notice they do have sort of the fists, so you could do the Wonder Twin powers activate. Yeah, dude, Marvin might be coming later, but there can't be too many more waves of these because, again, Mattel is taking the DC license, and I don't know that they're going to be continuing McFarlane lines. So this is a kind of a big wave, and that's why I'm thinking it could be their last one. And I know there's a lot of people kind of PO'd because there hasn't been a Wonder Woman figure at this point, and they really want, we got Batman, you got Superman, they really want that figure as well. But they are also having Aquaman, which I might grab because my favorite Super Friends as a kid were Aquaman and Green Lantern during that one season where they had all of them. There's also Bizarro Superman, Bizarro Batman, and Brainiac. So that's the third wave. I'm going to assume probably about the same price points as previous waves. Okay, wait a minute. Is that? Oh, yeah. Okay, there's room for that. I get it. So, so I'm going to keep my eyes open on October 2nd for those. And hopefully we'll be able to grab the ones that I want. And there's two. There goes. Okay. And why does it look like I've screwed something up? Because I apparently maybe have screwed something up. Well, I'll have to figure that out at some point. So we got the new wave from McFarlane on that. Okay, come on. I'm trying to try to run a show here. Little raccoon. Oh, I see what I did with those. That's not actually that hard to correct. Thankfully. All right, that goes back there. It was one step forward. Okay. Oh my goodness sake. So basically what I have completed now is the bottom of the raccoon's face. So I think that black spot there would be the nose with the eyes above it. Yeah. that was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Oh yeah, I got the bifocals a year or two ago. And I actually was even still using my old glasses a lot because it took me a little while to get used to them. But I finally the old glasses weren't doing it at all. And I went for the ones where you could see the line. I didn't go for the Invisalign because I'm not vain about my age. I don't care if people know that I'm old. Obviously, I'm old. Look at this beard. But there's also this teaser from Mondo, Real Ghostbusters figures. They've been getting a lot of figures lately for the Real Ghostbusters. I believe 1/12 scale, based on the fact that the little thing in the bottom, let's see, let me get my, right there, says 1/12. So it looks like that. Yeah, man, that was a amazingly successful cartoon. I even remember watching it a bit when I was younger, and I was kind of past the age for cartoons, well, not completely, but I wasn't a kid anymore. And, but it was actually pretty darn good. And you got, the one dude doing Dr. Venkman, who also did Garfield, which was kind of cool. Arsenio Hall doing, Zeddemore. What was his name? It wasn't Walter. Winston Zeddemore. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to be putting out a range of those in the near future. So here's movies from Kino Lorber. If you enjoy ninjas, they're putting out the Ninja Trilogy, 4K. So it includes Enter the Ninja, 1981, Revenge of the Ninja, 1983, and Ninja 3, The Domination, 1984, which I have not seen the other two, but I have seen that. I think it popped up on streaming one time. And Conan has his own channel now? What is that on, Raimi? Is that on like Roku or YouTube? Or that's interesting. I'll have to look into that. So this is coming November. Oh, they're promoting the new Conan figures on it. Okay. This is coming November 18th. It's going to be $80 for the set, or $30 if you buy each movie separately, and you can go to Kino Lorber's site for more details. So that's on YouTube. I'm going to check that out. Yeah, I kind of like some of those little, those kind of little channels they do on YouTube. It's like, because Shout Factory has a bunch. And, you know, you'll just like tune in and you're right in the middle of a Godzilla movie. But like if you got 15 minutes to waste, might as well waste it with Godzilla or Speed Racer or a Super Sentai thing or what have you, just for the heck of it. Ninja 3 is a look. Yeah, I watched Ninja 3 and I remember I was like, I mean, I knew what I was getting in for. I knew I was not about to watch, you know, an Oscar nominated drama or something. And it's goofy, but I did have fun with it for sure. The ninja craze hit again, just at a point where I was not necessarily too old for it, but like I came from the era more of Kung Fu, and ninjas sort of hit when I was like hitting high school. And I don't know, they didn't like resonate with me. I've heard the new Kamen Rider one is good, Rami. Yeah, I like the old Kamen Rider. I watched some of the first, you know, like the first version of the character. But I heard people were really digging that. So yeah, I never got mega into ninjas when I was younger. Oh, plus they changed Snake Eyes in G.I. Joe from being a commando to a ninja. And for some reason I took that personally. He's not a ninja. He's a commando. What are you doing? And you know what I think it partly was? And I've mentioned this, I think, on the channel before. I grew up like loving military stuff, army figures, you know, like little plastic army men, war movies. I read books. World War II especially was big for me. Victory at Sea, watching that on Sunday afternoons. Really into that stuff. And Sears Christmas catalog would always have a page of like military toys, you know, helmets, uniforms, you know, fake guns that looked like M16s and all that kind of stuff. And of course, G.I. Joe, the first wave, looks kind of military, right? It hadn't gone full superhero yet. And the thing that changed it was Rambo. Open up my wish list catalog to the Army page, and there's like a bow and arrow and a headband. And I'm like, I mean, I was always just a tiny bit maybe autistic. And it was just like, what is this doing on this page? That's not real military stuff. This does not belong here. You know? And then it started creeping into G.I. Joe and stuff. I know. And everybody loves Ninja Snake Eyes. I was a little kid. And like I said, I probably had a pinky toe on the spectrum about stuff. And I did not like change. And it was like, I don't like this. I don't like all this Rambo stuff getting into my real army looking things. I like stuff to look really like army. And then it pops into G.I. Joe, which the first wave, I was like insane for, because it was like Star Wars figures and plastic army men had a baby, you know, and I was young enough. I didn't even know about like the big G.I. Joe figures from the past. I had no idea those even existed. This was G.I. Joe to me, real American hero. So that started changing from looking really military to start. And I was like offended, but I was also just at about the age where I didn't care. So it didn't become a deep seated hostility in me or anything. I can laugh about it now, but anyhow, so we got the Ninja Trilogy coming from Kino Lorber. I saw Rippaverse has Bloodruth #2 on pre-order now. So she's kind of their witchy magical character who uses, you know, blood type magic. And then the first issue, I had the black and white version. She's dealing with these demons. It kind of tells how she took over the home that she lives in now, her kind of like her sanctum sanctorum. So that's out for pre-order now. Also saw, what does Ray say? I used to get so mad that when in comments they would say Captain America wouldn't kill. I know. Captain America was not, yeah. Look, Batman had a no-kill rule. If you read the really early ones, he's not like going out purposely shooting people or anything like that. They want Batman to be grimdark from the beginning, and he gets about 1 year of being kind of dark. But the people who die, they generally died because of their own evil. Like one dude rushes at him and then falls into this vat because Batman ducks out of the way. One guy he hits and breaks his neck accidentally when he was swinging down. And the dude was pretty evil. So he doesn't like really go out and purposely just kill and maim people. And then at the end of that first year is when Robin is introduced. And that's when Batman stops being real grimdark. He starts less Shadow, more Dick Tracy. And he kind of stays like that for about 20 years, culminating in the old Batman TV series, which is remarkably comic accurate if you've actually looked at the comic books for most of Batman's golden age. And in fact, a few of the episodes are based on actual comic book stories, little changes. But Captain America, on the other hand, I have read the first year of those, and I got it prepped. I haven't recorded the video yet, but I am going to do that. Amazing, first of all. Jack Kirby. I mean, his art is not quite where it was going to be, but it's amazingly dynamic. The fight scenes and all that kind of stuff. Crazy dynamic stuff. And weird villains that he fights. But yeah, clearly Cap wasn't like setting out to just, straight up murder everybody or anything like that. But no, Cap didn't mind taking some people out at all. So yeah, sometimes it's like comic code authority. You gotta do what you gotta do. But Captain America's a soldier. Now, His Girl Friday has nothing to do with soldiers whatsoever, but it is coming out from Criterion Collection in December in 4K. I don't know that I need it in 4K, but it is, I will be honest with you, one of my all-time favorite movies. It's rapid delivery of dialogue with Cary Grant, Rosalind Russell talking over each other, but it's filmed in such a way that it really works. It's actually a remake of a story that's been done a couple times before that called Front Page. And in Front Page, both the editor and the reporter were both men. The reporter's name is Hildy. So in this version, they went for sort of a romance angle, made Hildy a woman. So Hildy became Hildegard. I'm not sure maybe Hildebrand was the name when it was a guy. And so this one is sort of more like in the screwball comedy world, a major indictment of political corruption and the corrupt press. So again, if you think journalists are bad now, they were just as bad back then, to be quite honest. But it's also it's a funny movie. It's a great movie. So there's a little message to it, but like it's mostly funny. Lou, Arsenic and Old Lace is a really good one too. Cary Grant, just manic in that one. Here he's a lot more, he's a slickster. He's a liar. He does whatever he has to get the story that he wants to get. Love this movie. And also, I've said for a long time, I think Rosalind Russell in this is maybe one of the, if not the best versions of Lois Lane ever committed to film. Now, Lois Lane is actually based on a character from a movies named Torchy Blaine. And I've watched a couple of those, and you see, she's a girl reporter, gets into all sorts of trouble, gets into danger, hunting down the stories. But it's the way that Rosalind Russell delivers her lines in this thing, where you're going, this is like, if I was a woman and I was going to be playing Lois Lane in a movie or doing voice work or what have you, I would watch His Girl Friday and get an idea, because I think her delivery of stuff is very, very Lois Lane. She's smart. She's a news hound. She doesn't put up with any crap, but very human too. So I just threw that up there. I know it's a bit of a switching gears for a lot of the stuff I cover, but I love that movie so much that I had to do it. 40th anniversary Golden Girls action figures from NECA. Now they put these out a while back. This is a reissue. The main reason I threw it in when I was talking about the Well, I mean, I threw it in because it's a new figure release, but we were talking earlier about the expense of the McFarlane Catwoman figure. That's a little more expensive than a lot of the other figures, and we wondered if it had to do with licensing. And I noticed when I was looking at these that the B. Arthur one doesn't really look like B. Arthur in particular. And I wondered, it's like, was it just not a very good sculpt? Because the other ones are pretty good. Or were they not able to get licensing for B. Arthur's image? You know, because you got to think, when they made the Golden Girls, the outfits are different. Yeah, so they might have redone those. Huh. But I think the figures are the same. But you got to figure when they signed up to do Golden Girls back in the 80s, which, by the way, was actually a really funny show. I remember watching it back then. I'm sure there was no thought in terms of like toy licensing. Golden Girls was not going to get toys back in the 1980s. Maybe it could have gotten a board game still. That kind of stuff would happen. Like Murder, She Wrote has a board game. So maybe they would have gotten something like that. But it really wasn't meant for kids. So I don't know that the initial contracts would have covered like using their images in products. So they probably retained the rights to those things. So they might have had to go to the B. Arthur estate and maybe didn't get it. But Blanche was my favorite. Reminded me of my great aunts. Yeah, my favorite, I think, well, I loved Betty White as Rose, which actually kind of reminds me of some of my relatives. An extreme version of some of my relatives. But I think my favorite actually was just Sophia because, man, she was savage. She just went after people. Pretty good. Dude, that's why I would just finished watching the episodes that I can find of the 1970s Paul Lynde show. Most people know Paul Lynde as Uncle Arthur on Bewitched, Center Square on Hollywood Squares and stuff. So he had a short-lived sitcom where he was playing a, husband and father. And he's like a conservative sort of lawyer to some degree. And his daughter is kind of a hippie. His older daughter is kind of a hippie. And she marries a sort of a, very, I use the term back then, maybe liberal guy who's also kind of a genius, but he's sort of a genius who he's almost too smart to like really get a job. One of those kind, like really smart, but kind of foolish in a way too. And of course, constantly rubbing Paul Lynde the wrong way. And it's actually a really funny show because it's Paul Lynde just insulting the hell out of everybody and a lot of snark, but he was like really, really good at that. So it really works. You watched Paul Lynde show last year? Yeah, man, it's actually a pretty damn funny show. It didn't last, but and Paul Lynde was, dude, he's funny, man. Yeah, so Sophia, very much like Paul Lynde for the Paul Lynde show. Back to Kino Lorber. This is an update from something I talked about on an earlier live stream. So they had announced an Abbott Costello collection. So it was going to be these 4 movies in a slipcase. You could buy them all at once. It sounds like now that's not going to happen until like maybe next year. But November 11th, you're going to be able to grab the individual movies for $27 a pop. I think they're 4K. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. So it's sort of their horror ones, their monster mashes. 11 days after Halloween, so not really the greatest work there. Probably, lots of luck. Dude, lots of luck. Here's what's funny. Well, maybe, yeah, because you were probably, were you watching it, the ones on YouTube? Because, like, at the end, they were just recorded off of TV, and at the end, they would have, like, the opening to Lots of Luck, And I'm like going, yeah, I've never watched Lots of Luck. I might have to watch that one of these days. Yeah, so Raimi's saying he has the Abbott collection, but is there in DVDs? Again, these are ones where you're going, do you need 4Ks? of these old black and white movies. Like, it's Abbott and Costello. I don't know that you need to be able to count the number of, freckles on, or liver spots on the back of Lou's hand or something for these things. But I already have I have like more than one copy of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So I don't know that I'll get these, but I just wanted to do the update. Lone Dragon asks, did you back the Laurel and Hardy figures Kickstarter? I don't think I knew about Laurel and Hardy figures on Kickstarter. Is that campaign completely over? I might go look at it anyways. I don't know if I would back it because a lot of figures. Yeah, if I just take this down, yeah, you see all those like Mego style figures there and back there. Yeah, there's actually right above it over here is some sort of Transformer-y GoBot stuff, Little Masters of the Universe, Little Secret Wars. Up here is G.I. Joe and Star Wars figures, and Adventure People are up there. And I got a ton of crap over here on a bookshelf that makes it difficult to get books. So, yeah, it's over. It showed the paint masters off a month before sending it off to the factory. That's cool, though. Oh, yeah, the Paul Lynde show that's the Paul Lynde Halloween special, which was the first Kiss appearance on TV, which is pretty much why that special has survived, like on YouTube and stuff, because people taped it back in the day. And it's so weird that it's I'll be honest with you, it's not a great special. A lot of the stuff in it is like, okay, but you do get Witchy Poo, and you get Margaret Hamilton as Wicked Witch of the West. But what's amazing to me is the act that's on right before Kiss is Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch doing a song. So Florence Henderson followed by Kiss. The 70s was awesome, dude. It was so crazy. I love it. Color. Oh, yeah. They would go well with Scooby-Doo, wouldn't they? I'll have to go just look and see if I can, see what they look like. That's pretty cool. That's pretty rad. Yeah, I didn't know about that one. I don't know. As much as I try to keep up with stuff, man, there are so many things floating around. It is not always easy. Okay, so that's the Abbott and Costello situation. Do you like super expensive action figures, kids? This is from Mondo, 1/6 scale Nightcrawler figure from their X-Men 97 line. Now, Nightcrawler is probably my favorite X-Men. He comes with and obviously this is sort of playing off of the miniseries where he was like a pirate and there were little Bamf creatures and Lockheed was a giant dragon and blah, blah, blah. And he does come with a little Bamf dude. They look like little, nowadays you'd probably call it like chibi Nightcrawler, although we didn't really know the term chibi back then. So this thing looks freaking amazing. His tail is holding a sword, awesome. $250. It is up for pre-order now if you want to go to like Mondo or probably like Big Bad Toy Store and stuff like that. You like movies about gladiators. But it's an awesome figure, and if you got $250 to plunk down on them, more power to you. Yeah, when I first saw it, I'm like going, dude. Oh, because I'd seen X-Men 97 stuff that was like in more like the $25 range. They just released like a Wolverine figure. I was like, oh my God, I'm in. I'm getting that Nightcrawler for sure. And I click over. I'm like, oh, $250. I'm not going to get the Nightcrawler, maybe if they do another version. Marvel's PlayStation 2 video game is amazing. Hey, man, I've never played that either. I never had PlayStations and stuff like that. Dude, I had a VIC-20. And I love my VIC-20, but I didn't even have an Atari when I was a kid. I had the VIC-20. Radar Rat Race. Gorf. I was very good at Gorf. I was very good at Radar Rat Race. Yeah, that was my jam, kids. And I still got it, by the way, back in the closet there. And I got the newer Commodore 64 emulator thingy that they released a few years back, still in the box. Because we got the thing right when we got a brand new puppy. And I didn't have 5 seconds to myself to deal with that Commodore 64 because we had an insane puppy who's now a large, insane puppy who, like, you know, broke one of my ribs last year. Not on purpose, mind you. So it still is in the box because, like, once it got kind of put to the side, I just haven't addressed it yet. But I got to get into that one of these days. So one indie comic project that caught my eye this week from Robin Jones, who is a Ghastly Award winner. I don't really know what that means. Well, I mean, I can figure out what it means, but I don't know much about the Ghastly Awards. Doing a comic here. This is actually sort of a collection with new material added. Griff Gristle, Volume 1, The Boatman's Call. Here is the description. And let me wet my whistle before I read all that. Griff Gristle is an angry man, bereaved, bereft, and becalmed in life. He spends his days hunting the spirits and monsters of the deep. Now something dark stirs in the briny depths, something old and ancient and full of wrath. And only Griff Gristle and his motley crew of companions can stop it, if Griff can pull himself away from the bottle for long enough. So it collects Griff's previous adventures, Here Be Monsters, The Siren Song, and The Endless Voyage, plus added material. The art from Rory Donald I thought looked pretty cool. It's a little Mike Mignola-esque. Delivery of the book is in November. So I kind of found out about this one late, but you might want to look into it. It looks like it's on Kickstarter. Looks like $10 digital, $21 print, which is not a bad price, I think, for the size of the thing. So, you know, you might want to look for this one. It looks kind of cool. Little monster hunting in the deep. Yeah, like you said there. Anyone's still, hold on. Yes, but can you kill somebody with it? I mean, okay, yes, but could you sword? We won't worry about that, but yeah, that's a good one, Little Dragon. I like that. And you're right, yeah, art, like I just said, art does look like Mignola. It has that effect. Did I grab the other? Yeah, there's another image from it, like this skeletal-looking boat. Yeah, so it might be very cool. I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to back it or not, but I just thought I'd bring it up to people. Hey, man, we're getting close to that spooky season, so who knows? Well, yeah, look, I managed to complete the lower half of a raccoon's face while I talked. This was a much bigger haul than I thought it was going to be. I did not get past step 1. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 10 steps. Well, I mean, the 10th step is just setting the little thing on this little platform. So step 10 is actually one of the easier. The thing with this one is it's designed so the head will move, and I think the tail does. Yeah, that's why they have these little lines. Oops, on it. The head and tail will move. They just use one of those ball and socket joints to do that. I'm not going to put these things together because they're almost impossible to take apart, but very simple. But they have a whole bunch of these. I showed a few off on not an old stream because I wasn't doing that yet, but like an old video. They actually built transforming robots with these things. That one of them, I could not transform it to save my life. I couldn't figure it out. There's one, though, a very simple transformation of robot into tank. That was pretty cool. So I want to look for those. But I think that will do it for today. We did like an hour and 20 minutes. I thank the chat, Raimi, Lone Dragon, and of course, my lovely wife, for making some fun conversation. I really appreciate that. Coming this week in Dad's Den, on Monday, we're taking a look at Justice League America number 38 and Justice League Europe number 14. And if you know, you know, but Justice League America 38, you know how it's usually haha, funny, yeah. Ooh, this is not a funny issue. Might be a few jokes in there, but it's not a funny issue in the least. On Wednesday, I'm doing a review of the Planet of the Apes TV show from 1974, not the cartoon, the live action one. And on Friday, assuming I make the video today, I have about 3 videos I need to record today. I'm going to be taking a look at an old Marvel comic from the 60s, Not Brand Echh. So this was sort of their comedy magazine in the style of Mad Magazine, but primarily dealing with Marvel comics, going a little bit into DC world. And this one in particular has the origins of the Fantastical Four and the origin of Superman. Now, the Superman one is actually a pretty good comical takedown of DC and what they did with the Superman character in the Golden Age and going into the Silver Age. It's actually pretty funny. And I've had this one sort of on my list of things to make a recording of, and I had a good empty slot for a Friday. So I'm going to try to get that one made today. And of course, next Sunday at 10 a.m., we'll be doing another Live in the Den. Raimi Butler says, my favorite John Ritter movie, Skin Deep. The glow in the dark scene. Oh, I know what you're... I know what you're talking about. I have not seen that movie, and I know the scene that you're talking about. That was famous at the time, or maybe infamous. So I think that will do it for Dad Live in the Den this week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to everybody in the chat for making it a real fun time. Thank you, my wife, for putting up with me. Thank you, Frankenberry, for being such a delicious cereal. And I think that will do it for me. I will end with, God bless everybody. Please, please, please be kind to one another. Even the folks that maybe aren't your favorite, try to be kind to them anyways. It will pay off in the end. And, God bless everybody. Please be kind. Have a little bit of fun on this beautiful Sunday, and I will see you again, hopefully soon, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye, folks.